everyone. Ford with the Here With You podcast. I'm here with Coach John Reece from CrossFit Epically Awesome. John has let us kind of start our ministry at their gym, so I wanted to bring him in to talk a little more about kind of the fitness, nutrition side of things, because we've been talking about the spiritual side. So to start things off, I wanted to ask John, kind of give us some background on, one, who he is, how he got into CrossFit or fitness, and how we can get involved with what they're doing at CrossFit Epically Awesome.
Hello, Ford. Hello, everyone, actually. As you guys have heard, my name is John. I go by John. It's usually what most people call me.
I didn't want to confuse with the other John.
That's fair.
Who's on this podcast.
That's fair, yeah. So I'm John Reece, to make the distinction.
Yeah.
And I do own CrossFit Epically Awesome with my wife and a business partner. We got into it. Let me back up a little bit. So I got into CrossFit personally in 2008 timeframe. I was on a deployment to my first deployment to Iraq, actually. And I was doing the normal gym thing that guys do. And if you've been to any kind of regular Globo gym, there's always like one guy that everyone, even if they don't know him personally, they know he's there. He's like the really jacked dude who's really big. And like everyone knows that guy belongs to that gym. It's almost like
he has the 2 gallons of water.
Yes. Yeah. He's exactly that guy. Yeah. So he walked by. I was on like a bench or something, and he walked by very randomly. I had never spoken to him. We never made eye contact ever. He walks by. He goes, "Hey, you want an intense workout? Go to www.crossfit.com," and just like walked away. Like faded into the distance. Never saw him again. True story. So I went to the website. Back then it was just CrossFit. Actually, it still is just CrossFit.com. But
it was just like the journal back then?
Yeah, so it was the format was different. It used to look a lot like, you ever go to like the website maps? You know what I'm talking about? Where you like click on the help button on a website and it turns the whole thing into a big like list of bullet points.
Yeah, like a site map.
Site map, thank you. Yeah. So like it used to look a lot like a site map. It was like the WOD in the main screen, like a big white square with the WOD in the middle, and then on the left hand side was just like lists and lists and lists, and you used to click on the movements and exercises button, and it would just bring out pages and pages and pages of lists of different movements, and you click on it, and you could I remember that you could do like the QMV video or like the WMV video. It was like different links in case you had a different computer. It was
man, good old days of the web.
Yeah.
Different story.
It is a different story for maybe a different podcast.
Yeah.
So I taught myself how to do the movements. I got from the videos. I got pretty decently involved in it. I was stationed in Kadena at the time, which is in Okinawa, and I went back there from the deployment. And what is now CrossFit Asia, Reebok CrossFit Asia, was just kind of starting up. They were in I think their second year. Jamie is the owner over there, a really good guy, and kind of took me under his wing in a manner of speaking. Taught me the movements, taught me gym life and classes and all that stuff, and just really opened my eyes to what CrossFit could be. And from there, very shortly after, I got my first level 1 back when they didn't have expiration dates. And it's been a journey from that was 2008 till now. So 11 years. Actually, April was my 11th year of CrossFit. I'm in my 11th year right now. To answer your second question, we got into this gym with so the gym, owning a gym has been part of my personal retirement plan for pretty much since 2008. I was like, oh man, I got to do this. I want a gym.
Yeah.
And I had this idea that maybe 4 to 5 years away from retirement, I would start my own gym so that by the time I'm retired, the gym is, functioning and supporting itself and all that. And I can't remember. Oh, I do remember. So before you started at the gym, I got into it not long, very shortly before you started. I was coaching for the previous owner. He was going on a trip overseas. He was like bike riding across Bavaria or something like that. So
sounds fancy.
I know. He got some good pictures with it. So he was like, "Hey, I need some extra coaching. Would you mind helping out?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So that's how it started. And in our like onboarding, like at the point where he said, "Hey, I want to hire you to be a coach," he was like, "Just so you know, I'm selling the gym. So if it comes down to it and I can't find a buyer, we're gonna close up." And I was like, "That's not nice." So there, I mean, at the time there was 30, 35 members, and I was like, we owe it to these people to keep the place open. So I happened to be having this conversation with my wife, Kelly, and you know Kelly.
Yes, I do.
I felt compelled to tell her, "Hey, look, there's a very real chance this gym is going to close down, and it's very close to our house and very convenient." And she liked that a lot, and she'd always wanted to try the gym out. At the time I was going to a different gym, and I was happy there, just doing my thing. And Kelly did not. I don't know. At any rate, she was never able to convince me to go over to Epically Awesome until we decided to buy it. At which point, it was the guy it came down to the last minute. He was literally about to leave. He was like a week or two away from leaving when we finally agreed to buy it from him for a very reduced rate, which is in essence why, long story short, which is why we bought the gym now versus waiting until I was right before I retired. I felt like I owed it to the community. I really liked the people that were there. Like I said, I was coaching initially, so I'd gotten a chance to know them a little bit. I started coaching in August and we bought it in November. So I had those, 2-3 months, and I really felt beholden to them. I love people. I love establishing and building relationships with people. And I felt close with them after those 2-3 months. And I didn't think it was fair to just shut it down, because I knew there's only 2 other real options at the time anyway for them to go to as a gym. And neither of them are really good CrossFit communities.
And so kind of starting to transition to new other topics.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a lot about CrossFit and what we do. I chose it for my ministry specifically because how much it's helped me with my mental health and just like persevering through workouts or showing up and having other people like support you.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a whole kind of resource in its own for mental health that I think people don't really recognize.
Totally agree.
So how would you say like CrossFit would be really different compared to one of their competitors?
Competitors, yeah.
I don't really know what.
It's hard to quantify that, because like nobody really does exactly what we do, right? I agree. So without getting into the conversation of competitors, we'll just, for definition's sake, we'll say everybody else that's not CrossFit.
Or like maybe somebody that's like heard bad things about CrossFit or
there. Yeah, I mean, there are umpteen million arguments against CrossFit, and honestly, like, that's a rabbit hole we could go into if you want. But at the end of the day, what I think the crux of your question is what does CrossFit have that other gyms don't? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in my experience, so to give you a little bit of backstory, I was homeschooled, like K through.
Explains a lot.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Thanks. K through 12. So I had, and to make matters even better, there were myself and my 4 siblings were the only kids in our neighborhood. Like that's it, no joke. So to say that we didn't have a lot of social, if I didn't have siblings, I wouldn't have social interaction.
Yeah.
So for me, CrossFit provided something. It was much more than an endeavor to make myself better. In the gym, it was an opportunity to explore both mental and physical boundaries for multiple reasons. The first being, if you go to a regular, Anytime Fitness, and you put yourself through a workout, unless you have the discipline, if you're the kind of person who wants to be a bodybuilder really bad and you really want to sculpt your physique, the chances are you're going to build good discipline, right? Like if you're really committed to it and you're the kind of person who has work ethic, you can build strong discipline. But there's no accountability, right? Like you don't know anyone at the gym, you don't go there with anybody. I mean, if you do, that's why it's good to have a workout partner, right? Regardless of what gym you go to, for the accountability. If you don't, in a regular gym, you don't have that. You get, when you pay your $10 a month or whatever it is, you get a key to the door and you get a towel every now and then and access to the sauna if they have one. what I got from CrossFit that I wasn't getting from, and like, full disclosure, I was following like men's health workouts that you get out of the magazine with phenomenal results. But what I got from CrossFit was encouragement. Everybody wanted me to do not well, they wanted me to do better, right? They wanted me to push myself. Everybody was on the same page, right? We all wanted better for other people around us. And that's hard to find, period, let alone in a gym, right? Like, gyms are typically places of intense competition where you want to be better than everybody else.
Yeah.
And in CrossFit, what I found is that...
Or all the weights are taken.
Right. There's like 8 guys waiting in line for the bench, the one flat bench. So what I found in CrossFit is that everybody wants everybody else to be just as good as they are, or better, right? Like, they want you to push yourself. Another thing that I got was, for me, getting into a gym where I have to push myself so hard that it's physically painful. I never ever did that in what I call the Globo gym, right? Like the Anytime Fitness or Snap Fitness, whatever. I never pushed myself that hard. I'd feel a burn, do 3 or 4 reps into the burn, and that was it, right? And never did I ever breathe hard while lifting, right? When I have to push myself through something like today's workout, I'm going to give you a little free look in case you haven't seen it.
I'm not looking.
It's a 200-meter run, and then 27 wall balls and 27 box jumps, and then another 200, and then 21, 21, another 200, 15, 15, another 200, 9, 9, right? Like, so lots of running in legs is what we're coming down to. I have a very poor relationship with wall balls. They are extremely difficult to me. So going into the gym and forcing myself not only to put the work in to lift a weight while breathing hard, right? It's 20 pounds. To do that while also pushing myself to do better than I would on previous workouts. You know what I mean? Like, that's a very deep level of mental commitment and awareness. And I think, like I said, this is all my opinion, my experience. CrossFit has developed for me, and honestly for many, many people, I can say that with certainty, this really work ethic, character-driven mindset that forces you to look at an obstacle as an opportunity for growth as opposed to a setback.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and then you're, I guess, to kind of connect it with the gospel and spiritual growth. I always kind of viewed it like, I don't know if you're familiar with like the term sanctification.
I am.
Where you're like progressively getting better, like closer towards being like Christ.
Yes.
And I feel like that CrossFit's like a kind of like a good metaphor, or I guess it's not a metaphor because you actually do it,
right.
but a good representation
parallel, yeah,
of how
a microcosm
that process works, how it works, because like there's going to be suffering, but through those sufferings and trials, you're going to get stronger.
Yeah.
And you're going to get, when they come up again, you'll know how to deal with them, or you'll be conditioned for them. So, and that's kind of why I chose it. And then I also like, for our Saturday workouts, I do like partner workouts, which I actually don't really like partner workouts. Like, you don't like wall balls, because I like to just show up and do my thing. But,
right.
But I notice, people are coming on Saturdays and they're already kind of doing their thing, and they need somebody to kind of help them get through it. And they're kind of nervous about doing CrossFit because they've heard all these things about it. Or their friends that know nothing about it tell them not to do it.
Yeah, it's a big step to do CrossFit and expose yourself all in the same day.
Yeah, so I try to make it where it's sort of kind of beginner level, or we scale to their level. We do it as a partner workout, and we kind of share the load, or share each other's burdens. And
isn't that the idea, though?
Yeah, and that's where like the discipleship side of it comes in, where you're sharing with each other, and it's still kind of, I'm always constantly tweaking it and trying to figure out how to make it better.
Yeah.
But I know like that mindset seems like I've kind of developed that mindset, but I didn't always have like a mindset of like discipline or hard work. Like when I did football in high school, we had weightlifting. They made us go on the weightlifting team. And I did a lot of sort of Olympic style lifting. I never really kind of pushed myself or really knew what I was doing. I didn't have anybody ironically coach me on how to do it.
Yeah.
So I never really developed kind of my own personal discipline or spiritual discipline. And I think from kind of going to CrossFit and pushing myself to go out of my comfort zone and to want to be around people.
Yeah.
And still kind of developing that, because sometimes I'm like at work all day talking to people, and I just come to the gym and I just want to.
You're exhausted.
Work out and go home.
Yeah.
But
I think sorry, go
challenge
ahead.
Is what helps you grow and develop and mature.
Yeah, adversity is I completely agree. I think adversity is where we grow, right? Like without the adversity, like there's an old saying that everyone used to say anyway, like, only even what is it? Diamonds are made under pressure, extreme pressure, right?
Yeah.
Like when you super compress carbon, like the most basic, boring, like charcoal, boring of all elements, it becomes one of the most rare and desirable elements through pressure alone, right? Like without adversity, we can't grow. Like Christ couldn't have been who he is. He couldn't, in his human form, right? He couldn't be Christ the King, Lord of all things, without first demonstrating his willingness and ability to go through the most excruciating and brutal punishment imaginable at the time, right? Like if he just showed up and baptized some people and then, converted some water into wine or wine into water, either one, got rid of a few alcoholics while he was here, right? Raised Lazarus from the dead, and then was like, all right, guys, I'm out. Oh, and just rose up. Like the effect would have been much less profound, right? Like by demonstrating, and this is where I think humans can really work on, they can increase their sanctification by accepting hardship and adversity and offering up what my grandmother always said was, if you have suffering in your life, you accept it, you offer it up to God as suffering, and you push through it, right? Whether you learn from it or not is up to you. But for me, it's always been my journey of sanctification has been reaching out to God in times of strife. I'll give you, this is actually one of my favorite stories. So I was dating a girl, go figure, right? So I was dating a girl, and she and I did not get along when it came to religion. So as you know, as the listeners may or may not know, I was raised devout Catholic, still practice Catholicism. I love it that way. The girl that I was dating identified as non-denominational, and we had a really good relationship for a brief period. It was a very carnal relationship, though. Very soon we realized that our deep-rooted selves of who we were very incompatible, and it was a very ugly ending, and I was very upset. I really liked her a lot. Like I proposed to her, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And I was crushed when I realized it wasn't going to work out, right? Like without going into the depths of the story, she basically was like, hey, look, we can't get married. And at the time I hadn't fully realized the depths of the situation. I think she kind of realized what was going on before I did, right? So in my just, weeping misery, I made this resolution that I think all of us have at some point where we're like, Lord, if you just get me through this situation, I'll never ask for anything again, right? How many times did I've probably done that? At least a couple times this week.
True.
Right? And what I did what I've been working on since that girl and I broke up, I made this resolution. I said, Lord, I'm going to make you a new deal. Let's, because like making deals, like we have any negotiation power, right? Like
it's another different podcast.
Yeah. So I was like, Lord, if you can help me through this pain, I promise that I will come to you with every single problem I've got. I will go to you first. I will go to you every time I need help, because yours is the help that I really need anyway, right? So it allowed me to reframe my problems and my mindset with, instead of complaining and whining and making excuses and sobbing myself in misery, like, oh, this is so hard, right? I reach through that pain and that adversity, and I say, Lord, I know that I'm suffering for a purpose. Help me understand why, so that I can take that and turn it into something beneficial. So I can either learn from it, grow from it, help somebody else with the knowledge of it. For me, CrossFit helps that because I can really focus on being in the moment in my workouts. When I'm huffing and puffing and sweating and wishing that the wall balls would end, like I'm going to be later on today, I can look through the pain in the moment and say, I actually don't feel that bad right now. Like, I can do one more rep. You know what I mean? It's the game of one more all the way through the end of the workout. And I've used that mindset and the mindset of reaching through adversity to ask God to help me. Right? Those two are co-compatible. Like, what the body does, the mind will follow, and vice versa. If we think good, happy thoughts, we're going to be good, happy people. Where if we do good works, we're going to think happy thoughts. You know what I mean? The mind-body relationship is so symbiotic, and I don't think people realize that. And what CrossFit is starting to show, and eventually I'm sure there will be studies done of the mental fortitude developed in CrossFit gyms, but what you'll find is that people who had a really hard time getting into CrossFit, people who were really hesitant to join the gym, become some of the most devout and successful followers. Much like people who were extremely against the idea of a God, who one day realized, they've become some of the most devout, flag-carrying followers. Right? You think of the story of Saul, or is it Saul? Right?
I don't know which story you're getting to.
I'm saying the tax collector who was like, "There's no way there's a God," and then
Zacchaeus. I don't know. Y'all have a different Bible than me, I think.
It's the same Bible. What are you talking about?
Apocrypha and all that.
We have an Old Testament and New Testament just like you do.
No, just kidding.
Who is the guy who was like on a horse and Jesus appeared and was like, I need you to stop being unfair to my people.
Yeah, that's Saul.
Is that Saul? Okay, yeah. Wasn't he
the tax collector thing? No, he's a tent maker.
Oh, a tent maker. Okay, something like that.
He was a persecutor of.
That's what it was, persecutor. I like in my mind, everyone is a tax collector back in the day. Yeah. Like that was what everyone did. Got it. Okay, yeah. So
people do not like tax collectors though.
No, I can't imagine so.
But I think they don't like persecutors of Christians more.
Right. Yeah. I agree. So much in those same parallels, right? Like you find that some of the people who were most scared or most concerned, I don't know if it's a mental inhibition or what, but I think they come at it with a much more ready to learn mind than somebody who just has an open mind and is willing to try, right? Like, and I say that because someone who's a doubter, they're looking for every reason for it to fail. And when they can't find any, they're like, this is so amazing, right? Like they see the real deep inner workings of something working, right? Like the persecutors become true believers because they look for all of the faults. And when they don't find them, they're like, this is legit. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it same way with CrossFit. Like, people who look for all of the there used to be, if you look back in like history, like I'm sure you can find it on YouTube still. People used to go to the level 1 certs just to try and disprove the level 1 staff.
Yeah.
They would pay the money, go to the cert, sit in the crowd, and be like, nope, wrong, that's wrong. Here, this is why, right? That's what the people used to do, right? Now, CrossFit's got more affiliates than Starbucks does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
how could somebody who is trying to figure out whether they maybe just want to come on to one of our Saturday things or come to CrossFit Epically Awesome or any CrossFit gym, depending where they're at, how can they get started with that?
My question there is, like, I'll answer your question with a question is, how do you get started, right? Like, what is the first step? You know, there's I don't know if it was Confucius. I know it's
help them make the first step.
Yeah. It's like a Chinese proverb, I think. It's a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, right? So it's going to be, there's nothing I can say that's going to convince someone to try something they're very scared of, right? Like what has to happen is that person has to see inside themselves and say, I want something better for myself, right? Like I'm going to take this accountability. I'm going to take the action to make my life better. I'm going to be closer to God by taking this step. I'm going to be in better shape by taking this step. I'm going to eat better food by taking this step, right? Like treating the body and the mind the way you treat your relationship with God is a great way to trounce fears of doing things, right? Like, is it Philippians 4:13? I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Something like that.
Yes.
Not bad for a Catholic guy, right?
So.
Not bad. It's one of the more popular ones, so it's easy for me to remember.
Yeah.
I see it everywhere. I love that one because God has infinite strength, right? Like if you lean on him, like, bro, I want to make this decision. I need you to help me. He's got strength. He will help you make that decision, right? Like, and even if you aren't a believer, right? If you just want to work your way into a CrossFit gym and you happen to hear this podcast, welcome. We love you too. If you are at a point in your life where you're like, something has to change, you've got the motivation, right? Like your mindset is there. If you recognize there's something that has to change, you've already made the first step, right? Like, what is it? Acceptance is the first step of the grieving process or whatever it is. Or is that Alcoholics Anonymous?
I think it's Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. So,
or saying that you have a problem is
admitting you have a problem is the first step, right?
Yeah.
Like if you look at yourself and you say something's got to change, like that is the first step, right? Joining a gym, coming to a Saturday workout, like that's like the second or third step, right? Like you're already moving forward. Now you have to stay on the path, right? So
one of the songs that I play on Saturdays is I think it's about our relationship, but the song is One Foot in Front of the Other.
Mm-hmm. Just put one
and
foot
I just like,
in front of
and it's a good song to dance to.
It is.
But also
it's in a movie somewhere.
While you're talking, I was thinking of like, for how long I've been doing CrossFit. You know, I'm not ripped because I know I kind of struggle with eating.
We all do.
Food is good.
Food is good.
Food is good all the time. But I guess like if you used to watch Biggest Loser, or
mm-hmm.
you see all these like ads like 30-day bodies, or how can somebody really commit to like the long-term progress? Like
that is the question.
I think I've noticed like a lot of times people will come like, well, you went to 2 Saturday workouts and you're not ripped. Like, or
are you talking about like John specifically? He's calling you out, John.
No, actually, John actually he came almost every Saturday, and
he started coming 3 days a week for a while.
Yeah, and he was really committed to it. And
proud of you, John.
Seemed like he got a lot out of it. But there's the others who maybe they're not willing to trust that the long-term impact is really going to change or be worth it. I don't know what you've seen over time from running a gym.
So, full disclosure, I've only run this gym for 2 years. Not even 2 years. In November, it'll be 2 years. So yeah. my experience is more. So I've coached in a lot of different gyms. Yeah. So I just want to be clear. I don't want to sound like I'm falsifying information. I
thought you invented CrossFit.
If you ask some people, they say the same thing. I like talking. So for me, that's the biggest struggle as a coach, and especially now as an owner. The biggest struggle with everyone is the commitment. It's recognizing that this is truly a 1,000-mile journey, right? We're talking about making a decision, whether you're 19 years old or 65 years old, you still have a long time to live, right? Like if you're 65, there's a very real chance you could live another 30 years, right? So we're not like, that's an entire mortgage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
almost my whole life.
That is my whole, I'll be 32. That's like my entire life, right? That is a very, very big commitment, right? And the way I've been framing it to people recently is, the way I've been describing this endeavor is that the journey, or excuse me, the end goal, right? Like getting ripped or eating well for 30 days is not the goal. The goal is to make better decisions and continue to work to come to the gym. And I say work like whether you're able, some people have a struggle making routines. Some people it's really easy. For those people that struggle with routines, they have to put legitimate work into making time to come to the gym. So it's about the journey, right? Like it's not about coming every day. It's about putting in effort so that over the next 30 years, you're here on average 3, 4, 5 days a week, right? Like we have a proven process with 4 steps. And if you follow those 4 steps, if you enter our gym as a member and you follow those 4 steps, you will get results, right? Like it's going to happen. The thing is, you have to stick with it. Like you have to follow the steps. As is the case with a lot of rehab programs, as is the case with a lot of the, what do they call it? Like the decision-making processes, right? Like if you go to any business, they've got, the 7-step decision-making process, or I think the military has like, it's called MDMP, the military decision-making process.
It's an acronym.
It is. Yeah, of course it is. Right. And I want to say, so when I went through Airman Leadership School in the Air Force, which is like the first level of professional education you get, and the second level, it depends on how you look at it. It's the first, it's where you transition from an airman, quote unquote, to an NCO, a non-commissioned officer. You're taking on that responsibility. In the first level of that leadership course, you learn, and I'm pretty sure it was the Air Force 12-step problem-solving process, which is ridiculous, right? But the fact is, tying it all together, there's steps, right? And if you can commit to taking those steps every day, 1 foot in front of the other, that's the goal. It's about the journey, right? Like I'm actually going through this with my mom right now.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just was saying it's so much like we were saying with sanctification. Like you're never gonna become Christ,
right?
Like, but
that's so good. Yeah. Yes, 100% yes. Like we can all agree whether
never become Rich Froning.
Right, right. Certainly not. It's probably more likely we'll become Rich Froning than Christ, but like we will never be Christ ever. We can get 99% of the work done, right? Like if you were to go on vacation for 29 days, right? But on the 30th day you came home, wouldn't you tell everybody like, yeah, I was on vacation for a month? No, you're on vacation for 29 days, right? But you're basically there, right? And that's our framework. That's our mindset, is that like if we've done most of the work, then we've done it, right? But that's not the case. The case is if you've done most of the work but haven't crossed the finish line, you haven't completed the work. So with sanctification, like we'll get really, really close. Some of us can be canonized as saints, right? Like we can become really important in the annals of religious history, but we'll never be Christ, right? Like the apex of Catholicism is to become the Pope, right? Like if you become a priest or a bishop or not a deacon, priest, a bishop, cardinal, all that, like you could become the Pope. And even that is still miles and miles and miles beneath Christ.
Yeah, and the whole point of both of these things is, to help us be closer to Christ. Right. Like personally, and I don't want to get too much into it where we end up talking more about works and, get a whole different theology going. But just kind of center it around, the whole thing is about being closer to God and knowing God and being able to turn to Him in those times instead of other things. And when we were trying to do a Bible study with this group, it was Matt Chandler's Recovery and Redemption, which I've talked about a few times on here, and he talked about, his phrasing was we go to all these different wells, and Christ is the well that is never dry. But we go to these other wells like food or alcohol or
video games or
even just like relationships or anything. Mm-hmm. So
eventually
the challenge is to turn to Him when we're dealing with those things. And I hope that's what everybody gets from it, and not just CrossFit or just nutrition or just the process of sanctification, but knowing the goal of all of it is to know God better.
Yeah. The goal is the journey, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the journey is the goal. It was I believe, and you'll have to fact check this. I believe it was Socrates, or it was Socrates or Hippocrates, I forget. And they said, "Let medicine be thy food, and food be thy medicine." Hippocrates, right?
The Hippocratic
Oath. That's right. Okay. Wow. Way to
medical
go.
Doctors.
Way to go. So he said,
Fact check.
I'm gonna Google that. So he said, "Let medicine be thy food, and food be thy medicine." Right? Like, we don't need to turn to fad diet, like 30-day body toners and 90-day workouts and 10-minute abs, and like, what we need to do is just be willing to make the journey, right? Like, make good decisions a part of our life, just like you make going to church, going to Bible study, making time for yourself, going on family vacations. The same way we make those part of our life, we need to make our physical well-being part of our life. Because like I said, it's that mind-body relationship. If we treat our body well, our mind will think well, you know? And that serves so many more purposes. Like, even, right, so we're talking about the tie-in between religion and, you know, the spiritual body relationship, right? It goes so much farther beyond that. Like, taking care of your body, it like I said, without sounding like a broken record, it helps develop that good, free-flowing, fluid, happy mindset, and that extends to your entire life, right? Like, not just to your religion or your beliefs or the way you deal with adversity, but the way your relationship with your spouse, your significant other, your relationship with your children, your relationship with friends, the way you view sitting in traffic, right? Like, there is a huge spectrum of ways that can help you. And if we focus on that journey, that putting one foot in front of the other and making the effort to remain committed no matter how difficult it is, and understand that it's okay to slow down every now and then, as long as we don't stop, we're going to make it a much, much better world just by doing things like that.
Well, I have a bunch of other things I wanted to talk about and bring up that I keep thinking of while you're talking, but kind of at our time frame here. But just to wrap things up, just want to thank you for coming in and talking to us about it. I think we did a decent job tying it in to what we're trying to do.
Appreciate you having me, dude.
And hopefully we'll have you back, or we'll have more things to talk about on the nutrition and side of things. And I think there's a lot that people can learn.
I agree.
And I hope whoever's listening got something out of this, and you're willing to think and pray about taking that first step.
Amen.
And move forward on that journey.
If anybody has questions, is it cool if I shout out my email address on here?
I mean, if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah. So my personal email address is John the Reece, JohnTheReece @AOL.com. Don't judge me. I'm like one of the last 6 users of AOL. But if anybody has questions, I'm not on AIM. I used to be. It was like AL Mud Tires 18 or something like that.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to email me, JohnTheReece @AOL.com, I'll talk for days and days and days about this stuff. And I really, really appreciate you having me on. I love talking about this. I love tying it in with Christ and our sanctification. I'm huge into that. I have a huge mind-body philosophy, as I've said. So I appreciate the chance to be here, and I hope I can come back.
Yeah. Well, it all started because you let me use your gym. So
symbiotic.
Yeah. And then I know, like, with just one more thing, like with my story, like, just crazy. Me taking that first step and going to a gym. I went to a different gym, and then I was struggling with a lot of depression, and I decided to really commit to what I was trying to do and find a real community. And I knew, like, whenever I went to that, what was it, Festivus Games?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, all these people are cheering for me, and, like, I'm not, what's happening? And so since going to that, it's really helped out a lot, and
that's good.
A lot of other things have started to work out, and I've gotten a lot closer to God in the end. So
that's the goal, right?
So yes. Anyways, thanks for listening. Thanks for speaking with me, John.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right.